is Alyssa. I'm 34 years old, and I'm originally from Massachusetts, but now a Phoenician for a year and 3 months. I don't plan on having children at this point. I've never really had the mothering desire, and now due to a myriad of reasons, I will not be having children. Chances are extremely slim that I'll have children at this point. Throughout my 20s, I never felt any urgency to have children. And then entering my 30s, I kind of kept pushing it off, saying, well, I can do it in a couple years, and that's, here I am, 34, still doing that. And I feel like because of the political climate, the prevalence of diseases such as autism, mental illness, it's really becoming less and less of an attractive thing for me to do moving forward. I was a child, it really never was in the forefront of my mind. I guess I've just never, since birth and growing up and little, very young, I've never had that strong desire to procreate. So mental illness is a huge issue that kind of deters myself from having children. I come from a history of mental illness in the family, specifically major depression, and it's something that I have struggled with myself throughout my life, and becoming kind of increasingly more frequent in my 30s as, more factors come at you, and there are a lot of things to juggle in life. So definitely that is one of the largest factors deterring me from having my own children. The prevalence of mental illness is so high and increasing, and I just feel like if I can do something to prevent another child, with this disease, then that's what I should do. I'm definitely trying to prevent more people out there from suffering from mental illness and being exposed to that. I think with the prevalence of social media too, it's also, and how I see that, the trajectory of that not changing but getting, more so technologically advanced. Unfortunately, a result of that is isolation and, again, more depression and loneliness and suffering. So by not having children, I believe that I'm going to decrease the suffering of bringing another person into the world who might have to endure the pain of mental illness. There's one environmental factor that would also, factor into the reasons why I am not choosing to have a child, and that would be the overpopulation. I feel like we have more than enough people residing here in the U.S. and really in the world, and there are so many children out there that need homes. So I'm really an advocate of adoption as well, if having a child isn't a viable thing for you. I think that children are, they're expensive to rear. Now schooling is becoming ridiculous in terms of, higher education moving forward, and planning for them becomes more expensive. And I'm also in the midst of career changing and going to take some additional classes and taking a pay cut from where I am currently. So that's definitely a legitimate reason as well. I do think about adopting a child moving forward, because I am 34. I do know that the risks become increased as you get older with regards to having children. So it's definitely something that is in my mind, and I've thought about, and will continue to think about, as I don't really think I want to have children until my late 30s. I'll be honest, I'm pretty optimistic about the future. Well, let me kind of edit that. So I think politically it's a scary time, and I think it could get scarier. So in terms of the political climate, I think it's very scary. In terms of, the options that future generations are given with regards to schooling and whatnot, are good. However, again, like I said, schooling is increasingly becoming more and more expensive and much more of a business than it was in the past. And so in order to be really successful and set them up for success, it's going to be increasingly more difficult. So I would say that I am mostly optimistic. However, there are some really concerning factors in terms of the future and what that holds for future generations. Just like I don't or never have really worried or thought about having children on a specific timeline, I also don't worry about who will care for me in the future as I age. I am an adult, a professional who is making money, who will always have plans to be fully employed and make money and put money away for retirement. I know a woman who currently works at my company. She has her PhD from Harvard, and she lives in a communal kind of environment with her partner and their child, and they really seem to like it. So I think that is definitely an option, a viable option, and could provide for you the same kind of company and maybe enjoyment that you could get from having a child around as well. I've never felt that I am less of a woman in any way by not having a child. I view it as a personal decision, and due to, in my opinion, some really legitimate reasons, I feel fine. I feel like it was a smart choice for me not to have children. I think that instead of of putting your nurturing behavior towards having a child and that maternal instinct, you can definitely turn that nurturing energy into working for the greater good of us, of mankind, of the world. I definitely think women can express that maternal instinct on a global scale. If you look at, philanthropists, even Oprah Winfrey, I don't believe had children, and she's, really contributing to society and donates a lot of money to nonprofits and other organizations that are helping us out. So the fact that I have decided at this point I'm not having children moving forward, I am able to do things like what I'm doing right now, which is changing careers. I'm going from a position in the technology field to a position in the behavioral health field, and that's something I feel very strongly about. And so I am able to spend the money for additional classes and take an initial pay cut in order to get into the field. I'm able to take vacations, be very impromptu about plans, etc. So I'm definitely living an extremely full life without having children. I feel that by not having children also, I can, in changing careers, I'm going to be in a field that is specifically helping people with developmental disorders such as autism, dyslexia, and mental illness. And for me, that's extremely fulfilling, and it kind of it hits very home, close to me, because it's something I've dealt with, and I feel like I can now help people who are struggling with the same thing. I think that if I had a child, it would definitely be difficult to be doing what I'm doing, just because the stress of rearing a child is a lot. And I do know some people that are in the behavioral health field that do have children, but for me personally, I feel that it might be too much emotionally, and it could put me over the edge. My job working part-time with an autistic child is definitely emotionally draining, and once I completely transition into that field, working with clients full-time, I think that it will be, even more emotionally draining, albeit satisfying. Final words for me would be, I hope that people like myself who struggle with some diseases that are known to be genetic really sits back and thinks about what that will look like for their child in the future, And if there isn't a really strong desire to have children, then that might be the determining factor. It can be selfish to bring someone into the world. If you have that, you have some kind of disease that could be easily passed on, and the amount of suffering that could ensue